lines composed a few miles above Tintern Abbey on revisiting the banks of the Wye during a tour, July 13th, 1798, by William Wordsworth. 5 years have passed, 5 summers, with the length of 5 long winters, and again I hear these waters, rolling from their mountain springs with a soft inland murmur. Once again do I behold these steep and lofty cliffs, that on a wild, secluded scene impress thoughts of more deep seclusion, and connect the landscape with the quiet of the sky. The day has come when I again repose here, under this dark sycamore and view. These plots of cottage ground, these orchard tufts, which at this season, with their unripe fruits, are clad in one green hue, and lose themselves mid groves and copses. Once again I see these hedgerows, hardly hedgerows, little lines of sportive wood run wild, these pastoral farms green to the very door, and wreaths of smoke sent up in silence from among the trees. With some uncertain notice, as might seem of vagrant dwellers in the houseless woods, or of some hermit's cave, where by his fire the hermit sits alone. These beauteous forms through a long absence have not been to me as is a landscape to a blind man's eye, but oft in lonely rooms and mid the din of towns and cities I have owed to them, in hours of weariness, sensations sweet, felt in the blood and felt along the heart, and passing even into my purer mind with tranquil restoration. Feelings too of unremembered pleasure, such perhaps as have no slight or trivial influence on that best portion of a good man's life, his little, nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and of love. Nor less, I trust, to them I may have owed another gift, of aspect more sublime, that blessed mood in which the burthen of the mystery, in which the heavy and the weary weight of all this unintelligible world is lightened, that serene and blessed mood in which the affections gently lead us on, until the breath of this corporeal frame and even the motion of our human blood almost suspended, we are laid asleep in body and become a living soul, while with an eye made a quiet by the power of harmony and the deep power of joy, we see into the life of things. If this be but a vain belief, yet, oh, how oft, in darkness and amid the many shapes of joyless daylight, when the fretful stir unprofitable and the fever of the world have hung upon the beatings of my heart, how oft in spirit have I turned to thee, O sylvan Wye, thou wanderer through the woods, how often has my spirit turned to thee? And now, with gleams of half-extinguished thought, with many recognitions dim and faint, and somewhat of a sad perplexity, the picture of the mind revives again, while here I stand, not only with the sense of present pleasure, but with pleasing thoughts that in this moment there is life and food for future years. And so I dare to hope, though changed, no doubt, from what I was when first I came among these hills, when like a roe I bounded o'er the mountains by the sides of the deep rivers and the lonely streams wherever nature led, more like a man flying from something that he dreads than one who sought the thing he loved. For nature, then, the coarser pleasures of my boyish days and their glad animal movements all gone by, to me was all in all. I cannot paint what then I was. The sounding cataract haunted me like a passion. The tall rock, the mountain, and the deep and gloomy wood, their colours and their forms were then to me an appetite, a feeling and a love that had no need of a remoter charm, by thought supplied, nor any interest unborrowed from the eye. That time is past, and all its aching joys are now no more, and all its dizzy raptures. Not for this faint eye, nor mourn nor murmur. Other gifts have followed. For such loss, I would believe, abundant recompense. For I have learned to look on nature, not as in the hour of thoughtless youth, but hearing oftentimes the still sad music of humanity, nor harsh, nor grating, though of ample power to chasten and subdue. And I have felt a presence that disturbs me with the joy of elevated thoughts, a sense sublime of something far more deeply interfused, whose dwelling is the light of setting suns, and the round ocean, and the living air, and the blue sky, and in the mind of man, a motion and a spirit that impels all thinking things, all objects of all thought, and rolls through all things. Therefore am I still a lover of the meadows and the woods and mountains, and of all that we behold from this green earth, of all the mighty world of eye and ear, both what they half create and what perceive, well pleased to recognize in nature and the language of the sense the anchor of my purest thoughts, the nurse, the guide, the guardian of my heart, and soul of all my moral being. Nor perchance, if I were not thus taught, should I the more suffer my genial spirits to decay. For thou art with me here upon the banks of this fair river, thou my dearest friend, my dear, dear friend, and in thy voice I catch the language of my former heart, and read my former pleasures in the shooting lights of thy wild eyes. Oh, yet a little while may I behold in thee what I was once, my dear, dear sister, and this prayer I make, knowing that nature never did betray the heart that loved her. 'Tis her privilege through all the years of this our life to lead from joy to joy, for she can so inform the mind that is within us, so impress with quietness and beauty, and so feed with lofty thoughts, that neither evil tongues, rash judgments, nor the sneers of selfish men, nor greetings where no kindness is, nor all the dreary intercourse of daily life shall e'er prevail against us, or disturb our cheerful faith, that all which we behold is full of blessings. Therefore let the moon shine on thee in thy solitary walk, and let the misty mountain winds be free to blow against thee, and in after years, when these wild ecstasies shall be matured into a sober pleasure, when thy mind shall be a mansion for all lovely forms, thy memory be as a dwelling place for all sweet sounds and harmonies, oh, then, if solitude or fear or pain or grief should be thy portion, with what healing thoughts of tender joy wilt thou remember me and these my exhortations? Nor, perchance, if I should be where I no more can hear thy voice, nor catch from thy wild eyes these gleams of past existence, wilt thou then forget that on the banks of this delightful stream we stood together, and that I, so long a worshipper of nature, hither came unwearied in that service, rather say with warmer love, oh, with far deeper zeal of holier love, nor wilt thou then forget that after many wanderings, many years of absence, these steep woods and lofty cliffs, and this green pastoral landscape were to me more dear, both for themselves and for thy sake. Ode, Intimations of Immortality from Recollections of Early Childhood, by William Wordsworth. The child is father of the man, and I could wish my days to be bound each to each by natural piety. Wordsworth, my heart leaps up. There was a time when meadow, grove and stream, the earth, and every common sight, to me did seem apparelled in celestial light, the glory and the freshness of a dream. It is not now as it hath been of yore, turn wheresoe'er I may, by night or day. The things which I have seen I now can see no more. The rainbow comes and goes, and lovely is the rose, the moon doth with delight. Look round her when the heavens are bare, waters on a starry night are beautiful and fair, the sunshine is a glorious birth, but yet I know, where'er I go, that there hath passed away a glory from the earth. Now, while the birds thus sing a joyous song, and while the young lambs bound as to the tabor's sound, to me alone there came a thought of grief. A timely utterance gave that thought relief, and I again am strong. The cataracts blow their trumpets from the steep. No more shall grief of mine the season wrong. I hear the echoes through the mountains throng. The winds come to me from the fields of sleep, and all the earth is gay. Land and sea give themselves up to jollity, and with the heart of May doth every beast keep holiday. Thou child of joy, shout round me, let me hear thy shouts, thou happy shepherd boy. Ye blessed creatures, I have heard the call ye to each other make. I see the heavens laugh with you in your jubilee. My heart is at your festival, my head hath its coronal. The fullness of your bliss I feel it all. O evil day, if I were sullen while earth herself is adorning this sweet May morning, and the children are culling on every side, in 1,000 valleys far and wide, fresh flowers, while the sun shines warm, and the babe leaps up on his mother's arm. I hear, with joy I hear, but there's a tree, of many, one, a single field which I have looked upon, both of them speak of something that is gone. The pansy at my feet doth the same tale repeat. Whither is fled the visionary gleam? Where is it now, the glory and the dream? Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. The soul that rises with us, our life's star, hath had elsewhere its setting, and cometh from afar. Not in entire forgetfulness, and not in utter nakedness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come from God who is our home. Heaven lies about us in our infancy. Shades of the prison house begin to close upon the growing boy, but he beholds the light, and whence it flows he sees it in his joy. The youth, who daily farther from the east must travel, still is nature's priest, and by the vision splendid is on his way attended. At length the man perceives it die away, and fade into the light of common day. Earth fills her lap with pleasures of her own, yearnings she hath in her own natural kind, and even with something of a mother's mind, and no unworthy aim. The homely nurse doth all she can to make her foster child, her inmate man, forget the glories he hath known, and that imperial palace whence he came. Behold the child among his new-born blisses, a 6 years' darling of a pygmy size. See where mid-work of his own hand he lies, fretted by sallies of his mother's kisses, with light upon him from his father's eyes. See at his feet some little plan or chart, some fragment from his dream of human life, shaped by himself with newly learned art, a wedding or a festival, a mourning or a funeral, and this hath now his heart, and unto this he frames his song. Then will he fit his tongue to dialogues of business, love, or strife. But it will not be long ere this be thrown aside, and with new joy and pride the little actor cons another part, filling from time to time his humorous stage with all the persons down to palsied age that life brings with her in her equipage, as if his whole vocation were endless imitation. Thou, whose exterior semblance doth belie thy soul's immensity, thou best philosopher, who yet dost keep thy heritage, thou eye among the blind, that deaf and silent readest the eternal deep, haunted forever by the eternal mind. Mighty prophet, seer blessed, on whom those truths do rest, which we are toiling all our lives to find, in darkness lost, the darkness of the grave. Thou, over whom thy immortality broods like the day, a master or a slave, a presence which is not to be put by. Thou little child, yet glorious in the might of heaven-born freedom on thy being's height, why with such earnest pains dost thou provoke the years to bring the inevitable yoke, thus blindly with thy blessedness at strife? Full soon thy soul shall have her earthly freight, and custom lie upon thee with a weight, heavy as frost and deep, almost as life. O joy, that in our embers is something that doth live, that nature yet remembers what was so fugitive. The thought of our past years in me doth breed perpetual benediction, not indeed for that which is most worthy to be blessed, delight and liberty, the simple creed of childhood, whether busy or at rest, with new-fledged hope still fluttering in his breast. Not for these I raise the song of thanks and praise, but for those obstinate questionings of sense and outward things, fallings from us, vanishings, blank misgivings of a creature moving about in worlds not realized, high instincts before which our mortal nature did tremble like a guilty thing surprised. But for those first affections, those shadowy recollections, which, be they what they may, are yet the fountain light of all our day, are yet a master light of all our seeing, uphold us, cherish, and have power to make our noisy years seem moments in the being of the eternal silence, truths that wake, to perish never, which neither listlessness, nor mad endeavour, nor man nor boy, nor all that is at enmity with joy, can utterly abolish or destroy. Hence in a season of calm weather, though inland far we be, our souls have sight of that immortal sea, which brought us hither, can in a moment travel thither, and see the children sport upon the shore, and hear the mighty waters rolling evermore. Then sing, ye birds, sing, sing a joyous song, and let the young lambs bound as to the tabor's sound. We in thought will join your throng, ye that pipe and ye that play, ye that through your hearts today feel the gladness of the May. What though the radiance which was once so bright be now forever taken from my sight, though nothing can bring back the hour of splendour in the grass, of glory in the flower, we will grieve not, rather find strength in what remains behind, in the primal sympathy which having been must ever be, in the soothing thoughts that spring out of human suffering, in the faith that looks through death, in years that bring the philosophic mind. And, oh, ye fountains, meadows, hills, and groves, forebode not any severing of our loves, yet in my heart of hearts I feel your might. I only have relinquished one delight to live beneath your more habitual sway. I love the brooks which down their channels fret, even more than when I tripped lightly as they. The innocent brightness of a newborn day is lovely yet. The clouds that gather round the setting sun do take a sober colouring from an eye that hath kept watch o'er man's mortality. Another race hath been, and other palms are won. Thanks to the human heart by which we live, thanks to its tenderness, its joys and fears, To me the meanest flower that blows can give thoughts that do often lie too deep for tears. Resolution and Independence by William Wordsworth. There was a roaring in the wind all night. The rain came heavily and fell in floods. But now the sun is rising calm and bright. The birds are singing in the distant woods. Over his own sweet voice the stock-dove broods. The jay makes answer as the magpie chatters, and all the air is filled with pleasant noise of waters. All things that love the sun are out of doors. The sky rejoices in the morning's birth. The grass is bright with raindrops. On the moors the hare is running races in her mirth, and with her feet she from the plashy earth raises a mist, that glittering in the sun runs with her all the way wherever she doth run. I was a traveller then upon the moor. I saw the hare that raced about with joy. I heard the woods and distant waters roar, or heard them not, as happy as a boy. The pleasant season did my heart employ. My old remembrances went from me wholly, and all the ways of men so vain and melancholy. But as it sometimes chanceth from the might of joys in minds that can no further go, as high as we have mounted in delight in our dejection do we sink as low. To me that morning did it happen so, and fears and fancies thick upon me came, dim sadness and blind thoughts I knew not nor could name. I heard the skylark warbling in the sky, and I bethought me of the playful hare. Even such a happy child of earth am I, even as these blissful creatures do I fare. Far from the world I walk and from all care, but there may come another day to me, solitude, pain of heart, distress and poverty. My whole life I have lived in pleasant thought, as if life's business were a summer mood, as if all needful things would come unsought to genial faith, still rich in genial good. But how can he expect that others should build for him, sow for him, and at his call love him, who for himself will take no heed at all? I thought of Chatterton, the marvellous boy, the sleepless soul that perished in his pride, of him who walked in glory and in joy following his plough along the mountainside. By our own spirits are we deified. We poets in our youth begin in gladness, but thereof come in the end despondency and madness. Now, whether it were by peculiar grace, a leading from above, a something given, yet it befell that, in this lonely place, when I with these untoward thoughts had striven, beside a pool bare to the eye of heaven, I saw a man before me unawares. The oldest man he seemed that ever wore grey hairs. As a huge stone is sometimes seen to lie couched on the bald top of an eminence, wonder to all who do the same espy, by what means it could thither come, and whence, so that it seems a thing endued with sense, like a sea beast crawled forth, that on a shelf of rock or sand reposeth there to sun itself. Such seemed this man, not all alive nor dead, nor all asleep, in his extreme old age. His body was bent double, feet and head coming together in life's pilgrimage, as if some dire constraint of pain or rage of sickness felt by him in times long past, a more than human weight upon his frame had cast. Himself he propped, limbs, body and pale face, upon a long grey staff of shaven wood, and still as I drew near with gentle pace, upon the margin of that moorish flood, motionless as a cloud the old man stood, that heareth not the loud winds when they call, and moveth altogether if it move at all. At length Himself unsettling, he the pond stirred with his staff, and fixedly did look upon the muddy water which he conned as if he had been reading in a book. And now a stranger's privilege I took, and drawing to his side to him did say, "This morning gives us promise of a glorious day." A gentle answer did the old man make, in courteous speech which forth he slowly drew, and him with further words I thus bespake, "What occupation do you there pursue? This is a lonesome place for one like you." Ere he replied, a flash of mild surprise broke from the sable orbs of his yet vivid eyes. His words came feebly from a feeble chest, but each in solemn order followed each, with something of a lofty utterance dressed. Choice word and measured phrase, above the reach of ordinary men, a stately speech, such as grave livers do in Scotland use, religious men who give to God and man their dues. He told that to these waters he had come to gather leeches, being old and poor, employment hazardous and wearisome, and he had many hardships to endure. From pond to pond he roamed, from moor to moor, housing with God's good help by choice or chance, and in this way he gained an honest maintenance. The old man still stood talking by my side, but now his voice to me was like a stream scarce heard, nor word from word could I divide, and the whole body of the man did seem like one whom I had met with in a dream, or like a man from some far region sent to give me human strength by apt admonishment. My former thoughts returned, the fear that kills, and hope that is unwilling to be fed, cold, pain and labour and all fleshly ills, and mighty poets in their misery dead. Perplexed, and longing to be comforted, my question eagerly did I renew, "How is it that you live, and what is it you do?" He with a smile did then his words repeat, and said that gathering leeches far and wide he travelled, stirring thus about his feet the waters of the pools where they abide. Once I could meet with them on every side, but they have dwindled long by slow decay, yet still I persevere, and find them where I may. While he was talking thus, the lonely place, the old man's shape and speech, all troubled me. In my mind's eye I seemed to see him pace about the weary moors continually, wandering about alone and silently. While I these thoughts within myself pursued, he, having made a pause, the same discourse renewed, and soon with this he other matter blended, cheerfully uttered, with demeanour kind, but stately in the main, and, when he ended, I could have laughed myself to scorn to find in that decrepit man so firm a mind. "God," said I, "be my help and stay secure, I'll think of the leech-gatherer on the lonely moor." The Tables Turned by William Wordsworth. Up, up, my friend, and quit your books, or surely you'll grow double. Up, up, my friend, and clear your looks. Why all this toil and trouble? The sun above the mountain's head, a freshening lustre mellow through all the long green fields has spread, his first sweet evening yellow. Books, 'tis a dull and endless strife. Come, hear the woodland linnet, how sweet his music. On my life, there's more of wisdom in it, and hark, how blithe the throstle sings. He too is no mean preacher. Come forth into the light of things, let nature be your teacher. She has a world of ready wealth, our minds and hearts to bless. Spontaneous wisdom breathed by health, truth breathed by cheerfulness. One impulse from a vernal wood may teach you more of man, of moral evil and of good than all the sages can. Sweet is the law which nature brings, Our meddling intellect misshapes the beauteous forms of things we murder to dissect. Enough of science and of art. Close up those barren leaves, come forth, and bring with you a heart that watches and receives. The Solitary Reaper by William Wordsworth. Behold her, single in the field, yon solitary Highland lass, reaping and singing by herself. Stop here, or gently pass. Alone she cuts and binds the grain, and sings a melancholy strain. Oh, listen, for the vale profound is overflowing with the sound. No nightingale did ever chaunt more welcome notes to weary bands of travellers in some shady haunt among Arabian sands. A voice so thrilling ne'er was heard in springtime from the cuckoo bird, breaking the silence of the seas among the farthest Hebrides. Will no one tell me what she sings? Perhaps the plaintive numbers flow for old unhappy far-off things and battles long ago. Or is it some more humble lay, familiar matter of today, some natural sorrow, loss, or pain that has been and may be again? Whate'er the theme the maiden sang, as if her song could have no ending, I saw her singing at her work and o'er the sickle bending. I listened, motionless and still, and as I mounted up the hill, the music in my heart I bore, long after it was heard no more. The Prelude, Book 1, Childhood and School Time, by William Wordsworth. Was it for this? That one, the fairest of all rivers, loved to blend his murmurs with my nurse's song, and from his alder shades and rocky falls, and from his fords and shallows, sent a voice that flowed along my dreams. For this didst thou, O Derwent, travelling over the green plains near my sweet birthplace, didst thou, beauteous stream, make ceaseless music through the night and day, which with its steady cadence, tempering our human waywardness, composed my thoughts to more than infant softness, giving me, among the fretful dwellings of mankind, a knowledge, a dim earnest, of the calm that nature breathes among the hills and groves, when, having left his mountains to the towers of Cockermouth that beauteous river came, behind my father's house he passed close by, along the margin of our terrace walk. He was a playmate whom we dearly loved. Oh, many a time have I, a 5 years' child, a naked boy, in one delightful rill, a little mill-race severed from his stream, made one long bathing of a summer's day, basked in the sun, and plunged, and basked again, alternate all a summer's day, or coursed over the sandy fields, leaping through groves of yellow groundsel, or when crag and hill, the woods, and distant Skiddaws' lofty height were bronzed with a deep radiance, stood alone beneath the sky, as if I had been born on Indian plains, and from my mother's hut had run abroad in wantonness to sport, a naked savage in the thunder shower. Fair seed time had my soul, and I grew up fostered alike by beauty and by fear, much favoured in my birthplace, and no less in that beloved vale to which ere long I was transplanted. Well, I call to mind 'twas at an early age, ere I had seen 9 summers, when upon the mountain slope the frost and breath of frosty wind had snapped the last autumnal crocus. 'Twas my joy to wander half the night among the cliffs and the smooth hollows, where the woodcocks ran along the open turf, in thought and wish that time, my shoulder all with spring is hung, I was a fell destroyer, on the heights, scudding away from snare to snare, I plied my anxious visitation, hurrying on, still hurrying, hurrying onward. Moon and stars were shining o'er my head. I was alone, and seemed to be a trouble to the peace that was among them. Sometimes it befell in these night wanderings that a strong desire o'erpowered my better reason, and the bird which was the captive of another's toils became my prey. And when the deed was done, I heard among the solitary hills low breathings coming after me, and sounds of undistinguishable motion, steps almost as silent as the turf they trod, nor less in springtime, when on southern banks the shining sun had from his knot of leaves decoyed the primrose flower, and when the vales and woods were warm, was I a plunderer then, in the high places, on the lonesome peaks where, among the mountains and the winds, the mother bird had built her lodge. Though mean my object and inglorious, yet the end was not ignoble. Oh, when I have hung above the raven's nest by knots of grass and half-inch fissures in the slippery rock, but ill-sustained, and almost, as it seemed, suspended by the blast which blew amain, shouldering the naked crag. Oh, at that time, while on the perilous ridge I hung alone, with what strange utterance did the loud dry wind blow through my ears? The sky seemed not a sky of earth, and with what motion moved the clouds? The mind of man is framed even like the breath and harmony of music. There is a dark, invisible workmanship that reconciles discordant elements and makes them move in one society. Ah me, that all. The terrors, all the early miseries, regrets, vexations, lassitudes, that all the thoughts and feelings which have been infused into my mind should ever have made up the calm existence that is mine when I am worthy of myself. Praise to the end, thanks likewise for the means. But I believe that nature oftentimes, when she would frame a favoured being, from his earliest dawn of infancy doth open out the clouds, as at the touch of lightning, seeking him with gentlest visitation. Not the less, though haply aiming at the self-same end, does it delight her sometimes to employ severer interventions, ministry more palpable, and so she dealt with me. One evening, surely I was led by her, I went alone into a shepherd's boat, a skiff that to a willow tree was tied within a rocky cave, its usual home. 'Twas by the shores of Patterdale, a vale, wherein I was a stranger, thither come a schoolboy traveller at the holidays. Forth rambled from the village inn alone. No sooner had I sight of this small skiff, discovered thus by unexpected chance, than I unloosed her tether and embarked. The moon was up, the lake was shining clear among the hoary mountains. From the shore I pushed, and struck the oars and struck again in cadence, and my little boat moved on, even like a man who walks with stately step though bent on speed. It was an act of stealth and troubled pleasure. Not without the voice of mountain echoes did my boat move on, leaving behind her still on either side small circles glittering idly in the moon, until they melted all into one track of sparkling light. A rocky steep uprose above the cavern of the willow tree, and now, as suited one who proudly rode with his best skill, I fixed a steady view upon the top of that same craggy ridge, the bound of the horizon, for behind was nothing but the stars and the grey sky. She was an elfin pinnace. Lustily I dipped my oars into the silent lake, and, as I rose upon the stroke, my boat went heaving through the water like a swan, when from behind that craggy steep, till then the bound of the horizon, huge cliff, as if with voluntary power instinct upreared its head. I struck and struck again, and growing still in stature, the huge cliff rose up between me and the stars, and still, with measured motion, like a living thing, strode after me. With trembling hands I turned, and through the silent water stole my way back to the cavern of the willow tree. There, in her mooring place, I left my bark, and through the meadows homeward went, with grave and serious thoughts. And after I had seen that spectacle, for many days my brain worked with a dim and undetermined sense of unknown modes of being. In my thoughts there was a darkness, call it solitude, or blank desertion, no familiar shapes of hourly objects, images of trees, of sea or sky, no colours of green fields, but huge and mighty forms that do not live like living men moved slowly through the mind by day and were the trouble of my dreams. Wisdom and spirit of the universe, thou soul that art the eternity of thought, that givest to forms and images a breath and everlasting motion, not in vain by day or starlight thus from my first dawn of childhood didst thou intertwine for me the passions that build up our human soul, not with the mean and vulgar works of man, but with high objects, with the enduring things, with life and nature purifying thus the elements of feeling and of thought, and sanctifying by such discipline both pain and fear, until we recognize a grandeur in the beatings of the heart. Nor was this fellowship vouchsafed to me with stinted kindness. In November days, when vapours, rolling down the valleys, made a lonely scene more lonesome, among woods, at noon, and mid the calm of summer nights, when by the margin of the trembling lake, beneath the gloomy hills I homeward went in solitude, such intercourse was mine. 'Twas mine among the fields both day and night, and by the waters all the summer long, and in the frosty season, when the sun was set and visible for many a mile, the cottage windows through the twilight blazed, I heeded not the summons. Happy time it was indeed for all of us. To me it was a time of rapture, clear and loud. The village clock tolled 6. I wheeled about, proud and exulting like an untired horse that cares not for its home. All shod with steel, we hissed along the polish'd ice, in games confederate, imitative of the chase and woodland pleasures, the resounding horn, the pack loud bellowing and the hunted hare. So through the darkness and the cold we flew, and not a voice was idle. With the din, meanwhile, the precipices rang aloud, the leafless trees and every icy crag tinkled like iron, while the distant hills into the tumult sent an alien sound of melancholy, not unnoticed, while the stars eastward were sparkling clear, and in the west the orange sky of evening died away. Not seldom from the uproar I retired into a silent bay, or sportively glanced sideway, leaving the tumultuous throng to cut across the image of a star that gleamed upon the ice. And oftentimes when we had given our bodies to the wind, and all the shadowy banks on either side came sweeping through the darkness, spinning still the rapid line of motion, then at once have I, reclining back upon my heels, stopped short, yet still the solitary cliffs wheeled by me, even as if the earth had rolled with visible motion her diurnal round. Behind me did they stretch in solemn train, feebler and feebler, and I stood and watched till all was tranquil as a dreamless sleep. Ye presences of nature in the sky and on the earth, ye visions of the hills and souls of lonely places, Can I think a vulgar hope was yours when ye employed such ministry, when ye through many a year haunting me thus among my boyish sports, on caves and trees, upon the woods and hills, impressed upon all forms the characters of danger or desire, and thus did make the surface of the universal earth with triumph and delight and hope and fear work like a sea? Not uselessly employed, I might pursue this theme through every change of exercise and play, to which the year did summon us in its delightful round. We were a noisy crew. The sun in heaven beheld not vales more beautiful than ours, nor saw a race in happiness and joy more worthy of the ground where they were sown. I would record with no reluctant voice the woods of autumn and their hazel bowers with milk-white clusters hung, the rod and line true symbol of the foolishness of hope, which with its strong enchantment led us on by rocks and pools, shut out from every star all the green summer, to forlorn cascades among the windings of the mountain brooks. Unfading recollections. At this hour the heart is almost mine with which I felt. From some hilltop on sunny afternoons, the kite high up among the fleecy clouds pull at its rein like an impatient courser, or from the meadow sent on gusty days beheld her breast the wind, then suddenly dashed headlong and rejected by the storm. Ye lowly cottages in which we dwelt, a ministration of your own was yours, a sanctity, a safeguard, and a love. Can I forget you, being as you were so beautiful among the pleasant fields in which ye stood? Or can I here forget the plain and seemly countenance with which ye dealt out your plain comforts? Yet had ye delights and exultations of your own. Eager and never weary, we pursued our home amusements by the warm peat fire. At evening, when with pencil and with slate, in square divisions parcelled out, and all with crosses and with ciphers scribbled o'er, we schemed and puzzled, head opposed to head in strife too humble to be named in verse, or round the naked table, snow-white deal, cherry or maple sate in close array, and to the combat lue or whist led on thick-ribbed army, not as in the world neglected and ungratefully thrown by even for the very service they had wrought, but husbanded through many a long campaign. Uncouth assemblage was it, where no few had changed their functions, some plebeian cards, which fate beyond the promise of their birth had glorified, and called to represent the persons of departed potentates. Oh, with what echoes on the board they fell! Ironic diamonds, clubs, hearts, diamonds, spades, a congregation piteously akin. Cheap matter did they give to boyish wit, those sooty knaves precipitated down with scoffs and taunts, like Vulcan out of heaven, the paramount ace, a moon in her eclipse, queens gleaming through their splendour's last decay, and monarchs, surly at the wrongs sustained by royal visages. Meanwhile abroad, the heavy rain was falling, or the frost raged bitterly with keen and silent tooth, and, interrupting off the impassioned game, from Esthwaite's neighbouring lake the splitting ice, while it sank down towards the water, sent, among the meadows and the hills, its long and dismal yellings, like the noise of wolves when they are howling round the Bothnic main. Nor, sedulous as I have been to trace how nature by extrinsic passion first peopled my mind with beauteous forms or grand, and made me love them, may I well forget how other pleasures have been mine, and joys of subtler origin. How I have felt not seldom, even in that tempestuous time, those hallowed and pure motions of the sense which seem, in their simplicity to own an intellectual charm, that calm delight, which if I err not surely must belong to those firstborn affinities that fit our new existence to existing things, and in our dawn of being constitute the bond of union betwixt life and joy. Yes, I remember, when the changeful earth, and twice 5 seasons on my mind had stamped the faces of the moving year, even then, a child, I held unconscious intercourse with the eternal beauty, drinking in a pure organic pleasure from the lines of curling mist, or from the level plain of waters coloured by the steady clouds, the sands of Westmoreland, the creeks and bays of Cumbria's rocky limits. They can tell how, when the sea threw off his evening shade, and to the shepherds' huts beneath the crags did send sweet notice of the rising moon, how I have stood to fancies such as these, engrafted in the tenderness of thought, a stranger, linking with the spectacle, no conscious memory of a kindred sight, and bringing with me no peculiar sense of quietness or peace. Yet I have stood, even while mine eye has moved o'er 3 long leagues of shining water, gathering as it seemed, through every hairbreadth of that field of light, new pleasure, like a bee among the flowers. Thus, often in those fits of vulgar joy, which through all seasons on a child's pursuits are prompt attendants, mid that giddy bliss, which like a tempest, works along the blood and is forgotten, even then I felt gleams like the flashing of a shield. The earth and common face of nature spake to me rememberable things. Sometimes, 'tis true, by chance collisions and quaint accidents, like those ill-sorted unions, work supposed of evil-minded fairies, yet not vain nor profitless, if haply they impressed collateral objects and appearances, albeit lifeless then, and doomed to sleep until maturer seasons called them forth to impregnate and to elevate the mind. And if the vulgar joy by its own weight wearied itself out of the memory, the scenes which were a witness of that joy remained, in their substantial lineaments, depicted on the brain, and to the eye were visible, a daily sight, and thus by the impressive discipline of fear, by pleasure and repeated happiness, so frequently repeated, and by force of obscure feelings, representative of joys that were forgotten, these same scenes, so beauteous and majestic in themselves, though yet the day was distant, did at length become habitually dear, and all their hues and forms were by invisible links allied to the affections. I began my story early, feeling as I fear, the weakness of a human love, for days disowned by memory, ere the birth of spring planting my snowdrops among winter snows. Nor will it seem to thee, my friend, so prompt in sympathy, that I have lengthened out, with fond and feeble tongue, a tedious tale. Meanwhile my hope has been that I might fetch invigorating thoughts from former years, might fix the wavering balance of my mind, and haply meet reproaches too, whose power may spur me on, in manhood now mature, to honourable toil. Yet should these hopes be vain, and thus should neither I be taught to understand myself, nor thou to know with better knowledge how the heart was framed of him thou lovest, need I dread from thee harsh judgments, if I am so loth to quit those recollected hours that have the charm of visionary things, and lovely forms and sweet sensations that throw back our life, and almost make our infancy itself a visible scene on which the sun is shining. One end hereby at least hath been attained, my mind hath been revived, and if this mood desert me not, I will forthwith bring down, through later years, the story of my life. The road lies plain before me. 'Tis a theme single, and of determined bounds, and hence I choose it rather at this time than work of ampler or more varied argument. To a Butterfly by William Wordsworth. I've watched you now a full half hour, self-poised upon that yellow flower, and little butterfly, indeed I know not if you sleep or feed. How motionless! Not frozen seas, more motionless. And then, what joy awaits you, when the breeze hath found you out among the trees and calls you forth again. This plot of orchard ground is ours. My trees they are, my sister's flowers. Here rest your wings when they are weary. Here lodge as in a sanctuary. Come often to us, fear no wrong, sit near us on the bough. We'll talk of sunshine and of song, and summer days when we were young, sweet childish days that were as long as 20 days are now. Lines written in early spring by William Wordsworth. I heard 1,000 blended notes, while in a grove I sat reclined, in that sweet mood when pleasant thoughts bring sad thoughts to the mind. To her fair works did nature link the human soul that through me ran, and much it grieved my heart to think what man has made of man. Through primrose tufts in that green bower the periwinkle trailed its wreaths, and 'tis my faith that every flower enjoys the air it breathes. The birds around me hopped and played, their thoughts I cannot measure, but the least motion which they made it seemed a thrill of pleasure. The budding twigs spread out their fan to catch the breezy air, and I must think, do all I can, that there was pleasure there. If this belief from heaven be sent, if such be nature's holy plan, have I not reason to lament what man has made of man? Yew-Trees by William Wordsworth. There is a yew-tree, pride of Lawton Vale, which to this day stands single amidst of its own darkness as it stood of yore, not loath to furnish weapons for the bands of Umfraville, or Percy ere they marched to Scotland's heaths, or those that crossed the sea and drew their sounding bows at Azincourt, perhaps at earlier Crécy or Poitiers. Of vast circumference and gloom profound this solitary tree, a living thing produced too slowly ever to decay, of form and aspect too magnificent to be destroyed, but worthier still of note are those fraternal four of Borrowdale, joined in one solemn and capacious grove, huge trunks, and each particular trunk a growth of intertwisted fibres serpentine upcoiling and inveterately convolved, nor uninformed with fantasy and looks that threaten the profane, a pillared shade upon whose grassless floor of red-brown hue, by sheddings from the pining umbrage tinged perennially, beneath whose sable roof of boughs, as if a festal purpose decked with unrejoicing berries, ghostly shapes may meet at noontide, fear and trembling hope, silence and foresight, death the skeleton, and time the shadow, there to celebrate, as in a natural temple scattered o'er, with altars undisturbed of mossy stone, united worship, or in mute repose to lie, and listen to the mountain flood murmuring from Glaramara's inmost caves. To the Cuckoo by William Wordsworth. O blithe newcomer, I have heard, I hear thee and rejoice. O cuckoo, shall I call thee bird, or but a wandering voice? While I am lying on the grass, thy twofold shout I hear. From hill to hill it seems to pass, at once far off and near. Though babbling only to the vale of sunshine and of flowers, thou bringest unto me a tale of visionary hours. Thrice welcome, darling of the spring, even yet thou art to me no bird but an invisible thing, a voice, a mystery, the same whom in my schoolboy days I listened to, that cry which made me look 1,000 ways in bush and tree and sky. To seek thee did I often rove through woods and on the green, and thou wert still a hope, a love, still longed for, never seen, and I can listen to thee yet, can lie upon the plain and listen, till I do beget that golden time again. O blessed bird, the earth we pace again appears to be an unsubstantial fairy place, that is fit home for thee,